legendary, CBS. Right. I almost feel very humbled to interview
cut
you
it
here.
out. Come on.
Well, I got to give you a little bit of love. Street Fight, who kind of competes with us a little bit, just so you know.
Okay.
How did you get involved?
Well, I knew Laura Rich. I worked at, I did a project for Condé Nast. It was on Portfolio, and she was there. I met her, and I was quite impressed with what she was doing. Plus, I think the idea's got great legs. It's a brand new industry that is really dispersed around the country. So the ability to understand what somebody else is doing, or to even know what somebody else is doing who's trying to do the same thing you are, is very hard, because it's
Sure.
a local, it's being done in a city, most likely by local people, funded locally. So it's not like, you know, there's 20 TV stations or 20 networks, you know how to copy them. You don't know anything about what's going on in all these cities unless you go there. And so there's a real lack of information, of general information about the successes and failures of this industry. So putting together somebody to cover it, I thought was really important. I thought everybody will want to know this. Everybody who's funding, everybody will want to know about the mistakes being made,
Sure.
and the things that are working, because they desperately need to know. It's an entirely new game with new medium and new technology. And you know, being able to curate the information and what's going on out there in that world is very important for everybody in the industry. There's no one else telling them.
And for my investors, you just validated your investment.
That's
what
right.
do you think, really quick, the perception about hyperlocal and daily deals, which take up a big deal of hyperlocal, has been pretty negative lately. Do you think that the media doesn't really understand the difference between a daily deal, let's say a coupon like Groupon does, and some of the different technologies and different strategies that people here are
Yeah, I
talking
think, look, Groupon was a big success, and as you heard in our, if you were listening in our panel, you heard people talk about Groupon being very attractive to a certain part of the audience and building up a huge email list in the process, 50 million names plus. That's their single asset, though. I mean, right. Groupon doesn't own a technology, it doesn't own a concept. It actually aggregated an audience early, and the question is, what's that worth?
Sure.
And
they do have the most.
They have the most, but in today's world, you know, look back 5 years and Yahoo was the king of the hill because they had the most. And, you know, I think Microsoft was king of the hill because they were in every computer. And I think you have to really understand that today's world, things change pretty quickly because habits of the consumer are changing so quickly for the first time in a long time. You have to really stay on top of it. So Groupon touched a nerve. It touched the nerve of people who are looking, particularly in a economically tough time, who are looking for bargains, for something they might already be interested in doing, or looking for somebody to say, this is something good to do, and by the way, we checked it out.
Right.
So the danger to Groupon and to Living Social and to the early players in this world, the danger to them is that it's not that difficult for somebody big to come along and do the same thing.
Exactly.
If they already have a big footprint, if a Google or even a Microsoft or certainly Yahoo or any of the bigger players with a big audience decide they want to get into that business, it's not that difficult to do. So the value that they have is, you know, if I was them, I'd be trying to get out and go public as quickly as possible too and raise the money, because they're raising it on the fact that they're the leader right now.
Right.
And the only difference is, as we are learning in new technology, is it's much more difficult to remain the leader for a long period of time. So the smart thing to do is play on that as much as you can, raise as much money as you can, build a war chest to survive it and to try and be ahead of the game. But they're going to have to continue to change and continue to grow and continue to do new and different things, because big players are coming their way. I mean, you've got Gilt, you've got all these other players who are in really tangentially in some of their businesses, but are getting closer and closer.
How do you feel about the traditional, let's say, newspaper or even your radio station that's out there that's trying to get into the space? What have you seen? What's your thoughts on that?
Well,
is
they
this
have
something
to.
They should do?
I mean, this is their space. Yeah. I wouldn't say they're getting into the space. They're seeing their space going away.
Right.
They have to be in it, and they've been very slow to react up till now. So the question is, can they change their game? They understand how their consumers have changed, and will they change with them? They have to listen to them. They can't, you know, if the newspaper industry believes it's in the newspaper industry, it will die. Absolutely. If it believes it's in the news business, it can survive if it adapts to how people are taking in news. They may not print newspapers every day or at all at some point, but that's going to be up to the consumer, not up to them. And you know, the world may be better off with the forests remaining where they are or whatever. But the fact is, you can't sit there, put your head in the sand and think that it was great the way it was 5 years ago, so let's just do everything we can and hope it stays like that, because it isn't going to. So, and your expensive news gathering organization isn't going to be supported if all you're selling is a piece of paper every day.
With advertising.
So they have to adapt. They've been very slow to do it. It may be too late in some areas, but the industry is changing. And for them to be a player in it, they have to change with it.
What's the problem? It's just adjusting
well,
to
those,
that final...
no, yeah, everything else changed. You're not, it's not about printing papers and sending them to somebody's house. It's about reaching me with the information I want when I want it. And how I want it. And I may want it on 11 different devices over the course of a day. So if they're going to remain the news brand, they have to be on those devices. And they have to make money on those devices. They can't use one to support the other for very long.
You have to make money. Thank you so much. Larry Kramer, founder of CBS MarketWatch.
Good to see you, Boyan.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it.